very warm welcome. You're watching WION Speed. I'm Akanksha Swaroop, and in the next 30 minutes, I bring you the top stories from across the globe. After a deadly bridge collapse killed 39 people in the port city of Genoa, Italian Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte declared an emergency covering the region around Genoa. Conte stated that he would make an initial $5.7 million available from central funds to the northwestern region. He also took aim at toll road operator ARTEFACT, which operated the bridge as part of a stretch of the A10 motorway it manages. Furious government ministers rounded on bridge operator ARTEFACT, saying it should pay fines and compensation and lose its concession following the collapse of a bridge in Italy, which killed at least 39 people. Italian transport minister visiting the accident scene said ARTEFACT would have to contribute to the cost of its reconstruction as well as pay heavy fine. Rescuers hunted for survivors among huge chunks of debris. The 50-year-old bridge, part of a toll motorway linking the port city of Genoa with southern France, collapsed during torrential rain on Tuesday, sending dozens of vehicles crashing onto a riverbed, a railway and two warehouses. Turkey doubled tariffs on some U.S. imports, including alcohol, cars and tobacco, in retaliation for U.S. moves. The lira rallied further after central banks' liquidity moves had the effect of supporting the currency. Ankara acted amid increased tension between the two NATO allies over Turkey's detention of a Christian-American pastor and other diplomatic issues, which have helped send the lira tumbling to record lows against the dollar. The White House condemned Turkey's doubling of tariffs on U.S. imports in response to Washington's moves on imports of Turkish goods. Tensions between the NATO allies have been strained amid Turkey's detention of an American pastor and other diplomatic actions. The United States doubled tariffs on Turkish steel and aluminium last week, which contributed to a tumble in the Turkish lira. Tourists are flocking to luxury stores in Turkey amidst the crisis of the crashing Turkish lira to take advantage of the volatile currency rate. Soon after the news of the lira's crash, photos of people lining up outside fancy luxury stores in Turkey hit the internet. The plunge in the Turkish lira has made the country's luxury products the world's cheapest because some of the brands have not been quick enough to adjust their prices. The fourth of its kind NATO-led military exercise on Georgian territory, Noble Partner 2018, has come to an end. The large-scale exercises, which took place in and around Vaziani military base outside the capital Tbilisi, involved 1,300 Georgian troops, over 1,000 US troops and a combined 500 from 11 other countries. In addition to Georgia, non-NATO participants included Ukraine, Armenia and Azerbaijan, all of which were formerly part of the Soviet Union. Backers of imprisoned former President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva and members of Brazilian social groups assembled in Brasilia in preparation for a march on the Supreme Electoral Court to support Lula's candidacy for presidency. Many hundreds of supporters have been sleeping in tents in a field in the Brazilian capital ahead of the march. Lula governed Brazil for 2 terms from 2003 to 2011 and left office with a record approval rating of 87% due to a booming economy and social programs that lifted millions of Brazilians from poverty. The Central Venezuelan University Hospital is reeling as taps run dry. In the hospital, patients fill jugs from a tiny tap on the ground floor that sometimes has a trickle of water. Operations are postponed or cancelled. Water cuts are the latest addition to a long list of woes for Venezuelans hurting from a fifth year of an economic crisis that has marked malnutrition, hyperinflation and immigration. The The Mediterranean rescue ship Aquarius arrived at Valletta harbour in Malta to disembark 141 migrants, ending a 5-day tug-of-war between European Union countries. The ship, run by Franco-German charity SOS Mediterranean and Doctors Without Borders, was allowed in after France, Germany, Luxembourg, Portugal and Spain agreed to take in the migrants who were rescued off the coast of Libya. Thousands of Nicaraguans marched in the capital city of Managua to demand that President Daniel Ortega order the release of jailed opposition members. Anti-government activists such as Medardo Morena, Pedro Mena, Christian Fajardo, Maria Edilia Peralta are among the prisoners accused of terrorism for activities opposing the government of President Daniel Ortega. Students at Majory Stoneman Douglas High School returned to school almost 6 months after a gunman killed 17 students and staff members. The massacre at the school in Parkland, Florida on February 14, 2018 was carried out by a former student and spurred unprecedented activism by victims' families to prevent future gun violence. Parkland, a once quiet Florida suburb, is now filled with memorials and posters alongside its streets, parks and shops demanding stricter gun control. Almost 70% of American adults support strong or moderate restrictions for firearms. The death toll from a suicide blast at an educational centre in a mainly Shiite area of Kabul reached 48. There was no immediate claim of responsibility for the blast, which came after several weeks of relative calm in the Afghan capital. Previous attacks on Shiite targets in the area have been claimed by Islamic State. The Taliban, who have been intensifying their attacks against military and government centres in recent weeks, issued a statement denying involvement. A Turkish court has released Taner Kilic, the local honorary chairman of Amnesty International, from prison. Kilic, who has been in jail for a year as his trial continued, was charged with supporting a US-based cleric whom Ankara blames for a July 2016 failed coup. Turkey is also involved in a dispute with the United States over the detention of an American Christian pastor for terrorism charges. The United States Treasury Department targeted 3 Chinese, Russian and Singaporean shipping companies for violating financial sanctions that were meant to restrict foreign assistance to North Korea's already beleaguered economy. The Treasury's Office of Foreign Assets Control blacklisted 1 Russian national and the 3 shipping firms from the American financial system and froze their assets based in the US. Former Senator Mario Abdo Benitez was sworn in as President of Paraguay with the challenge of maintaining economic stability, combating poverty and fighting against corruption amid growing public discontent. Abdo received the presidential sash by the head of Congress, Silvio Ovala, in a ceremony at Lopez Palace, which was boycotted by legislators of his own party. Abdo has promised to fight pressure to raise taxes despite calls from the opposition for a levy on soybean exports. Cuba provided free internet to more than 5 million mobile phone users in an 8-hour test before beginning to sell the service in the near future. The Caribbean island is one of the Western Hemisphere's least connected countries, and Tuesday marked the first time in its history that internet services were available from one end of the country to the other. There are hundreds of Wi-Fi hotspots in the country, but virtually no home penetration. Vermont Democrats made Christine Hallquist the first openly transgender person to win a major party nomination for statewide office in U.S. history. She defeated 3 other Democrats and will take on incumbent Governor Phil Scott. Transgender candidates are hoping to build on the breakthrough year of 2017, when at least 10 won office across the country at levels ranging from state legislator to zoning board. U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration and Mexico will set up a joint team in Chicago targeting Mexican drug cartels and their leaders and finances. Mexico remains the principal highway for cocaine to the United States and has become the top source of heroin, which is fueling a surge in opioid addiction in the United States. It is also a major supplier of methamphetamines. A state of emergency has been declared in Florida as the worst red tide in a decade blackens the ocean water. Many sea animals have been killed, including dolphins, sea turtles and fish at a relentless pace. More than 100 tons of dead sea creatures have been shoveled up from smelly, deserted beaches in tourist areas along Florida's southwest coast this month alone. In just the past week, 12 dolphins washed ashore dead in Sarasota County. Quorum was not reached in Argentina's upper chamber in a corruption case gripping the South American nation that centers on former president and current opposition senator Cristina Fernandez. The measure would facilitate a search of Fernandez's properties as part of the corruption investigation. Earlier, police raided portions of the building where Fernandez lives in Buenos Aires. The neighboring apartments were searched for connections to Fernandez and her family, according to Argentine media. Hundreds of people, many clutching stuffed toys, rallied in Moscow to demand the release of two teenagers accused of extremism in a case they say is part of a growing Kremlin crackdown on Russian youth. Anna Pavlikova and Maria Dubovic, aged 18 and 19, are accused, along with 8 others, of creating an extremist organization that was infiltrated by Russian security services. China's third annual World Robot Conference kicked off in Beijing with robotic flying, dancing and cocktail making all on display. German automation firm Festo showcased its bio-inspired semi-autonomous robotic bat. The robot flies on a fixed track using a motion tracking camera. Images and flight patterns are fed into a central computer where a virtual counterpart can improve the robot's flight plans. The animals at the Cologne Zoo in Germany were fed like any other day. The giraffes bend their long necks for a closer look at their keeper. A shy bush baby takes a tidbit from its keeper's outstretched hand, and a hippo and a crocodile open their jaws wide on the keeper's command. Filmed with GoPro cameras, the zoo showed a variety of animals up close and personal with their keepers, who work with the more than 500 different species housed there. Covering 20 hectares, Cologne Zoo is one of the oldest and largest in Germany. Creators say that New York's Whisper Lodge is the first ever immersive theatre focused on the autonomous sensory meridian response experience. The 90-minute show, usually in a borrowed or rented apartment in Brooklyn or Manhattan, is performed entirely whispered. Performers whisper stories and words while crinkling items in guests' ears, brushing their hair, stroking their faces and arms with makeup brushes and applying struck-tuning forks to their foreheads. Dancers from across the globe took to the dance floor for the stage category of the 2018 Tango World Cup in Buenos Aires. The stage category is known for its flair and flamboyance and is a chance for tango pairs to show off their fancy footwork, spins and swings. More than 500 couples from all over the globe have descended on the Argentine capital for the chance to be crowned tango champions at the annual competition. The skies of northern India were covered with vibrant kites flying in the sky during India's Independence Day celebrations. Residents of capital city of New Delhi gathered on their terraces and flew kites while playing music with their friends and relatives. In a major goodwill gesture, the UK has returned a 12th century-old statue of Buddha which was stolen from India 57 years ago. The bronze sculpture was one of 14 statues ransacked from the Archaeological Museum in Nalanda, Eastern India in 1961. It is believed it changed hands several times over the years before eventually being sent to a London antiques dealer for sale. The death toll from the West floods in nearly a century in the Indian tourist state of Kerala rose to 43 as rising water stranded tens of thousands of people and forced the closure of one of its main airports. The 5 latest fatalities from the rain that began a week ago came when authorities in the southern state were forced to release water from 35 dangerously full dams. The Indian Meteorological Department has forecast heavy to very heavy rain in Kerala until Saturday, and it has issued a red alert for 12 out of its 14 districts. The airport in the port city of Kochi will stay shut until Saturday afternoon. Rain and floods have destroyed and damaged hundreds of houses in the past week and caused significant losses to crops in the state known for its spices and coffee. Hundreds of Hindu devotees thronged India's holy city of Ayodhya in northern Uttar Pradesh state to attend an annual monsoon fair. The fair is celebrated throughout the month of monsoon. Devotees believe that those who attend the celebrations and swing the children dressed up as Hindu Lord Krishna and his consort Radha get eternal peace and frees them from all worldly materialistic items.